right, welcome back to another episode of Catching Colorado. Today we are tying up the Hippie Stomper. This is a fly tied by Andrew Grillos, and I actually got this particular pattern from Charlie Craven on Charlie's Flybox rather. That's the YouTube channel. You can go check him out. We are going to start today's fly with a TMC 3761, and I'm going to tie it in a size 12. I have tied them down to 16 before. I'm a fan of bigger dries. I tend to fish bigger dries with more confidence. So I'm going to go a little bit bigger here. So I'm going to load that hook into the vise here. And then I'm going to start off with just a black thread. Now you could tie these in a bunch of different colors. The one you just saw was actually in a lime green. I'll tie this one in a different color so you can kind of see how it differs. So I'm just going to kind of load my thread up here. I like to go towards the end of the hook. I just like to see where I'm going to be finishing at. So I'm going to cut my thread free there. This is a 70 denier. I would recommend probably going a little bit heavier. Anytime you're tying in foam, it can be helpful to go a little bit heavier. So that's kind of the way that I would go if I were you. Now, Charlie ties this one with basically moose hair. I don't have any moose hair. I have got, it's very hard to find, but I do have kind of a fine brown deer hair here. So very, very fine brown. And it's a little bit shorter than generally Charlie ties. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to kind of lay it on the back of the hook here, just clean up some of those ends. And I want it to be, I don't know, about a quarter of the way behind. And then I'm going to just do a loose wrap, do another, and just kind of slowly bind it, coming back to there, work my way back up. Now this is going to be a little bit more of a frilly, I'll call it, but kind of fans out a little bit more than the moose hair. But I don't really mind that much. I think in general, you're just trying to put a tail on it, right? So just clipping out some of those hairs here, those extra fine deer hairs. And then I'm just going to kind of smooth it over, come back up about halfway on the fly, and roll back down, and then come back up and kind of rest about halfway. So that's kind of the start of the fly. Then Charlie uses a lot of super glue. I like super glue as well, especially when you're tying in foam. So I'm just going to take, this is the gel Gorilla Glue. I like the gel because you can create these bubbles. You can just dab it on there and then suck that bubble back into the bottle, and you don't have to use like a big drip of it. So I kind of like that technique. So that's the first part of this fly. And then the next thing we're going to do is we are going to tie in the foam here. You're going to have two pieces of foam. So this one in particular, I'll tie in purple. I really like purple-black combination. So these are actually 2mm foam. Charlie uses 1mm. I don't think it really matters. As long as you tie it down tight enough, I think you can get away with either one here. Maybe the 1mm is just a little bit better for the smaller flies. Like if you're tying this in a, I don't know, 14 or something. But in general, I think if you just tie it pretty tight around the shank here, you're not gonna be worried about too much. So I'm just squaring up that foam, getting the back kind of locked in to a place where I like it. You can pull it forward just to check and make sure you've gone back far enough. I like where that's at. So then I'm going to then take the purple foam and I'm going to lay that almost in the exact same spot I just did the black. And I'm going to capture wrap it. Oh, cannot get around there. There we go. And then I'm going to come back to the same point. And this one you might have to pull a little bit to you. But the idea is that you want to keep them both pretty square to one another. And then I'm going to just really cinch down that foam here, especially on the end, kind of doing some cross wrapping, and then bring it back up. And I'm going to settle that right at the front of that foam. So that's the beginning of this. And then you could use whatever tinsel you'd like. I'm using a Vivus medium purple tinsel here. I really like this color. I think it is one of the coolest as far as just how it pops. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to kind of capture wrap that basically right at the foam, and maybe 1 or 2 wraps up the foam. Just really get it in there, and then re-rest my tying thread kind of right there. And then I'm going to spiral this tinsel down the body of the fly, and we're just going to kind of smooth out, as Charlie calls it, the fly body all the way to the back, and then we're going to kind of work it back forward, effectively making like 2 full layers here of tinsel. And then while I hold that tinsel fairly tight there at the front, I'm just going to wrap a couple times, and then I'm going to get my scissors in here, and I'm going to snip us free. Then what you can do is you can just wrap around a couple more times, right around that tinsel, and just really get that tinsel locked in there. And now we've got our 2 pieces of foam, and then we have our tinsel tied in. So we're looking pretty good for the body there. So then after we get to this point, what we're going to do is we're going to tie in sections the 2 pieces of foam coming forward right in front of where that tinsel ended. So I'm going to bring my purple forward, get a nice loose wrap on there, and then grip it and pull straight down. And I'll do maybe 1 more of those. Got a nice little humpy butt there. And then we're going to do the same thing with the black in the exact same spot. And we're going to make sure, again, we're squaring that up. And then we're going to pull straight down, and we've got kind of our nice little body there, little hump. And then what we want to do is we want to kind of take that foam back, and we're going to build onto that metal shank of the hook, and we're going to come right behind the eye. I like to start maybe a little, like maybe a half an eye length back. So now that we have our thread advanced on the hook, we can do another one of those just really tiny dabs of super glue. Nothing crazy. Again, I like the gel because you can really control how much you're getting there. And then we're going to start with the purple. And we're going to come over the top with a loose wrap, kind of square that up pretty good. And a second wrap, square it up pretty good and pull tight. And then we're going to do the same thing with the black, and same deal. Got to pull that black back just a hair to square it up a bit, and then 1 more, square it up a little bit more, pull down, get a good wrap in there. So now we've got kind of 2 segmented parts of the body, and that's kind of all we need at the moment. So the next thing we're going to tie in is white, thin, fine round rubber legs. So I want to make these a little extra long because of some of the coloring that we're going to do later. But basically what I want to do is just kind of capture that leg on the front here, and I'm working it just to the side of the fly. And then I can kind of spiral wrap that back nice and neat until we get to that hump section that we tied in the back. And then after I'm done tying in that leg, I will cut another section of these legs, and it is important that there are 2 strands, not just 1. And then I will do the same thing here, where I just kind of do 1 loose wrap, get it captured there, and then spiral it kind of up to that next hump. So that's kind of all there is with the leg situation. Just making sure that they're kind of on the side of that fly. You can sort of at this point kind of pull them around a little bit if you need to, make these back ones longer or whatever the case may be. But you kind of want to leave those long. So that's kind of the name of the game here, is just leave those legs long. All right, so now ending kind of with our thread up near the front, what you can do is just sort of kind of make this body a little bit more streamlined. So any of those really fat sections that are sticking out, I just kind of clean up a little bit. So now we have a nice, like, smoother body. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to use Antron yarn. You can use really whatever you want here. McFlylon. Charlie uses macrame yarn, which I don't have any of at the moment. I ordered some because I really like kind of the wiry look of it. But we can use Antron, no problem. So what we're going to do is kind of lay that Antron over the top here. And we're going to leave it long as well, kind of on both sides. And spiral that onto the hook. And this is sort of where your fly gets a little bit more messy. You can still manage it very well, but just keep in mind that you're going to have to fight a little bit to keep this all at bay here. And then the next thing that we're going to tie in is going to be a piece of hackle. So what you're going to do now is you're going to wrap that hackle in. Like to do about 3 turns in the same spot, and then I'm going to bring it back to where we want to start the hackle, and then advance that thread forward to that spot that we're calling just behind the eye, if you will. So now that that's there, we can get a hold of our hackle, and we can start turning our vise. And I like to make this pretty dense. So I want a lot of fibers in here. So I'm going to try to use this whole piece of hackle. I think it looks better. I also think it gives it plenty more float, which is important when you're using a dry fly, obviously. I think that's pretty good. So then I'm going to capture wrap about 3 times, something like that. I've got this extra piece of hackle just kind of standing straight up here. Cut that off fairly close. And then what we're going to do is we're just going to take all of this stuff. This is the legs, this is the foam, this is everything. And we're just kind of pushing it back while we get a couple of wraps in right on that eye there. And then once we have those wraps, that should kind of capture some of the hackle that you're dealing with. And then what we can do is we can sneak a 3-turn whip finish in kind of right behind the eye there. So there's 1, 2, get that leg out of the way, 3, and seat. So we're going to seat that. And usually I would try to do another whip finish just because it's a dry and I want to keep my dries together, but I'll show you how we protect from that in just a second. So I'm going to cut my tying thread free. And then we're just on to trimming up this fly a little bit. So bringing that foam forward, I'm just going to get these out of the way because they're so long. We're going to cut those off. I don't know, I would say you're looking at about a half a hook length, something, or half a shank length, something like that. So I'm just going to cut those straight right there. And then we will go to the back part of the wing. The back part of the wing we want to cut off close. So I'll twist this your way so you can kind of see. What we're going to do is just kind of get it right up here close and snip it off. So we don't want like a ton coming off the back part of the wing, just kind of hanging up there. And then this top wing, we're going to cut about a length of the hook, something like that, a shank length. So I think that looks pretty good. And then what we want to do is we're going to rotate this fly over, and now we are going to trim up this bottom hackle. Now with all of this, just make sure you're not cutting your legs. And the reason we're doing this bottom hackle is because we just want it to set flat, perfectly flat on the surface of the water. So I'm cutting that hackle up pretty short there. I'll kind of turn it and make sure I like the way that it looks. If I need to trim a little bit more, we can do so. And then what we'll do is we will just take a piece of super glue again, or a drop I should say, not a piece. Drop of super glue. And I might go a little thicker on this one. And then you can kind of brush it into that hackle. And that really just finishes the fly in terms of durability. And then what we're gonna do is we're gonna turn this over and we're gonna just deal with these legs here. So the legs, you could do a whole bunch of different things with, but what Charlie does is he'll come in and he'll use the tips of his scissors to separate the very ends of each leg. And then with his fingers, after they're separated, kind of split them apart. So I'm working on that as we speak. So there's the front two. Okay, there we go. So now we've got our legs separated. And then what we want to do is just kind of create some bars on these. So what I'm going to do, I'll flip the fly back over so you can see here. But I've got very, very long legs here. So I'm just going to kind of paint a purple bar on these legs. And I'm going to make that bar fairly long. And I'm going to just make sure I get it on both the tops and bottoms. I don't really care if I get like on the insides and all of that other junk. As long as it mostly is purple, then I kind of like the look of it. So that's kind of what we're doing with that side. And then we'll flip these over and we're going to do the same thing. And we are marking these purple bars right about the end of where we think we would cut our legs. So the kind of the last part of the leg is going to be a purple bar. So I'm just giving them a little bit maybe extra length than normal. And then I think that's about good. Then I'm going to switch over to my black marker here. And I am going to basically just put a black bar at the bottom and the top of that purple bar. And then I might do a couple more barred pieces on the leg. So bottom of the leg, both sides, top of the purple bar, both sides, and then maybe just a couple more bars here just to give the leg a little bit of character. Now we're flipped back over to the top of the fly here, and we'll do the same. So black bar, black bar, black bar at the top, and then a couple black bars at the very top. And then I'm going to take my scissors and I'm just going to trim those legs so that they're free and they've got plenty of color on them and they sort of look a little wacky, a little crazy. And it gives you a nice little leg look to them. So that right there is pretty much it. And then you can kind of, if you want to, you can separate those legs a little bit. So some are coming out the front and some are coming out the back. You can keep them together if you want, but I just find if you kind of opposing stretch them, you get a nice little flop to them. And those are pretty long legs, but I would say that is your hippie stomper right there. You can cut down the legs if you like. That last hippie stomper I did had a lot shorter legs on it, or you can leave them long. So I just wanted to give you options so that you can see. But these long legs are definitely going to cruise across the water pretty good. It might mimic a water strider or just mimic a bug with longer legs. So anyway, that is the hippie stomper, originally tied by Andrew Grillos and inspired me by Charlie's Flybox, Charlie Craven. That is my hippie stomper in purple, and you can also tie it in green or other colors. So have at it. I hope you enjoy. Use this pattern on the water and let me know what you guys think. Leave a comment down below if you want to see other patterns, and any questions I am more than welcome, or more than happy rather, to answer. So hope you guys have a great day, and we'll see you next time on Catching Colorado. Thanks for watching the video. I really hope you enjoyed it. If you're interested in more relatable content, you can check out these videos right here. Oh, and don't forget to like and subscribe down below so you can stay updated on our next adventures.